Hey everybody, it's me Amanda with Once in a Wild, and welcome back to another Once in a Wild Wednesday, where each and every Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Guys, I'm trying so hard. Welcome back, or welcome in the first place to Once in a Wild Wednesday. My name is Amanda, the founder and animal specialist here at Once in a Wild, and welcome back to Once in a Wild Wednesday. Like I said over and over, we're each and every Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We try to go live across social media to bring you a free animal encounter virtually. And to anyone all over the world that follow us on social media, you may be unfollowing me after this. If you haven't started following us already on social media, the links are down in the description box down below throughout most of the platforms that we are live streaming on right now. And on Instagram, you can find that in our description, of course. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started before I get any crazier. Once again, welcome back to Once in a Wild Wednesday. My name is Amanda, the founder and lead animal specialist here at Once in a Wild, a mobile zoo based in South Texas. We are actually in San Antonio. If you've ever been to San Antonio, it's a pretty neat city here in South Texas, and we service the South Texas area with our animals. We actually can bring the zoo to any classroom, birthday party, animal therapy session, nursing home, meet and greet, office party, corporate event, you name it. We can bring animals within reason and make your day a lot better. And that is what we specialize in. But we also offer virtual animal experiences too, just like you're seeing right now. Live streams are free, but if you guys would like to tip or donate to our little zoo and help to keep us going, you may do so. Go to onceinawild.com/donate and you can find all your options. We've got Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Amazon wishlist, and even Patreon. That's right. We have a Patreon now. We're still working on getting some exclusive content for Patreon. Please bear with us, and thank you to our new patrons over there. And if you would like to help us out and sponsor our animals that way, you can certainly do so. Every little bit helps, and thank you so much ahead of time. If you would like to book your own animal encounter in person here in the South Texas area or virtually anywhere all over the world, we can certainly do so for you as well. That's another way to help us out, of course. And then you get something in return as well. Hello, Ricky. Ricky's saying hello and giving a good example of if you guys want to leave us a comment on most of our platforms, we can actually highlight your comment, except for over on Instagram. You're actually watching through my phone. So you guys can leave comments and questions and I will try to answer them as I see them. Same thing with the other platforms, but with the other platforms, I can actually highlight your comments and questions down below. Keep it family friendly as always, just like that. And we can join in together and interact together. And we're one big family, so please don't be shy. Keep it family friendly as always, because little ones are watching with their parents and things and grandparents, so please keep it nice out there, of course. But each and every Wednesday we try to bring you a little animal encounter. Sometimes I do have guests, but we're actually taking a break from our special guests because of what's going on across the planet right now, which, in case you're under a rock, that's COVID. So we're just trying to be extra careful right now with our in-person guests in such close quarters. We actually do broadcasts in a studio, or in our studio, we are broadcasting, and we have a purple backdrop, as you can see, and we are kind of in close quarters. So we have to be very careful right now, but we should be getting back to having special guests back on the show super soon. As soon as we're able to do that again, we will do that. And if you guys want to see some of our guests that have joined us on the show, pardon me, in the past, you can go to our YouTube or Facebook and some of the other platforms too, I believe, but YouTube and Facebook for sure. And some of the Instagram, most of the Instagram, I can't show two people at once because of the viewpoint. But for the other platforms, especially Facebook and YouTube, of course, everybody has usually either one of those. You can actually go back and watch our previous programs to see some of our fun special guests that were on the show. Those were a lot of fun. But today it's back to a one-woman show, which is how we started in the first place, because when COVID happened, we started doing live streams because of COVID. So of course I was alone then. And today's been a very busy day. I actually did do a in-person preschool program today. That was a lot of fun with all the little ones, and they got to meet Sandor, the Flemish rabbit, and a whole bunch of other fun animals that they could meet and greet and learn a little bit about briefly, because they're just little ones, right? They don't have the longest attention span, but we are for every age. We can actually customize any animal encounter, whether it be for preschoolers and little ones all the way up to senior citizens. Once in a Wild is for everyone, and we do our very, very best to kind of cater to different ages. all of our staff that help us here at Once in a While, including myself, we're very used to talking to all sorts of different people in every capacity. So we can certainly make that work for you. Or we can even keep it a lot more casual with a petting zoo experience, animal therapy session, something like that, or meet and greet photo op kind of thing. If you're not wanting a full animal presentation, that's okay. That's not for everybody or for every occasion, right? But we are for everybody and we can customize to any occasion. We would love suggestions, you guys. Ricky's reminding me over on Instagram. We would love suggestions for special guests. Let me know if you happen to be in the San Antonio, Texas area or surrounding area and you want to come travel to us. We're on the Northeast side. You can come visit us and maybe be a guest on our show. We would love some guests. So please let us know if you know of anybody that might be a good guest for that. That would be fun to have suggestions for that for sure. You can actually contact us at onceinawild.com or at our contact number, which is at onceinawild.com. You can just text me at that number. I was trying to see if there's any more questions over on Instagram. I can highlight questions on Instagram. I'm not even going to try because I'm afraid I'm going to shut off the live stream. Maybe I'll practice that on my own time another time. That way, just in case I do something wrong. So we're not going to experiment with that right now, but I can read your questions and I can see them. I am not the best at hearing, but I can see your comments all the way over there on my phone, and I'll do my very best to answer your questions, comments, etc., as long as they're family friendly, right? But typically each and every yes, we are on Twitch, but I wasn't able to sign on to Twitch tonight unless you were able to do that, Ricardo. Thanks very much. So we'll work on that. So we'll talk about that after the show. But we're all over the place, you guys. If you have social media of some capacity, you can definitely experience Once in a While on social media. We've got TikTok and everything. Feel free to follow us on social media. That's a free way you can help us out as well. Right? And that certainly does help. That helps the algorithm. That helps to get us out there, teaching more and more people. Tell your friends and family all about us. Comment, like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. You know the drill. You guys are familiar with social media. Everybody has something, right? So we try to be everywhere a little bit at least. Yes. So each and every Wednesday, we try to bring a few animals for you guys to kind of see and learn about as I present them. Tonight, we brought 3 of our, what I like to call creepy crawlies. And Once in a While has revamped all of our packaging for animal programs, and all of our prices are new. So please, if you're interested in anything, please let me know, and I will let you know what's updated. But one of our animal kind of presentation packages includes 5 animals from our creepy crawlies categories. So those, in my opinion, include reptiles, amphibians, and invertebrates. So I've actually brought 3 animals, 2 reptiles, and 1 creepy crawly invertebrate for you guys to meet today. So we have 2 reptiles and 1 invertebrate, to correct myself. But if you choose an animal encounter with just the 5 creepy crawlies, that includes those 3 categories: reptile, amphibians, and invertebrates. So you guys can pick those, and 5 of those animals are actually less expensive than 5 of just like any animal mix and match, if that makes sense. So we changed everything. So if you guys are interested, we go and contact us for an encounter, or if you just want to check us out, we will be revamping our website pretty soon. So please stay tuned. All of that takes a lot of work, and we only have so much time. Once in a While is a very small company. We're very new, but I have been working with animals professionally for about 22 years now, more or less. I started working very young with animals. I started working with horses, dogs, and cats, and other animals too. And I got into exotics pretty fast. I've always liked exotic animals. I grew up looking at snakes and snails and lizards outside and always loved them. The only animals I'm afraid of are roaches. And those are the wild type, not the Madagascar hissing cockroaches, which you may have seen last week. We had some of our animals on the show last week eating fun foods. That was a fun encounter. It's something we haven't really done before, just the animals eating. And we had the opossum, some Madagascar roaches, as well as, who else do we have? Oh, Debbie the dragon, of course, the bearded dragon. But tonight, I just brought some animals to show you guys, like I usually do. That's what we typically do here on the live stream. We typically just take the animals out and show you and talk about them and teach you about them. And if you guys have questions about the animals, of course, just jump on in and ask questions or leave me comments or encouragement, whatever you would like to do. So shall we start meeting some of our creepy crawly critters? Again, that is a package you can actually choose for your animal encounter in person or virtually. Virtually, none of the animals cost any different. You're basically just choosing 5 animals for the virtual Zoom encounter, and you can choose any of the animals for that. But for in person, as you might imagine, some of the animals are a little more work to like pack away and travel with or present. So they vary in price now. So we do have a Creepy Crawlies package, though, that includes reptiles, amphibians, and invertebrates. And for that package in person, you can actually pick 5, but we brought 3 tonight because of the time allotted tonight. We're not going to go on for like hours and hours. If you know anything about me, I can actually talk for a long time. It's part of the job, but it also is kind of one of my weaknesses. I talk forever. And if I brought 5 animals on the live stream, I think I would be talking for 2 hours straight. So let's go ahead. And because of logistics and everything, getting ready for the show and starting and finishing and la la la, answering questions, talking to you guys. Also depends on how busy we are with our guests on the live stream too. So this is Long, and he actually is named after a dragon. So Long in Mandarin actually means dragon, Long. It's not an English word, it's a Mandarin or Chinese word. And this indeed is the Chinese beauty snake. So that's why we named him Long or Dragon in Mandarin. And he is just gorgeous. He's one of my absolute favorite species that we have here at Once in a While. And if you know much about me and you've met me before and asked me, snakes are my favorite animals in general. And colubrid snakes, like rat snakes, for example, colubrids are kind of the leftover, more slender bodied for the most part snakes, just kind of like your extra snakes in the animal kingdom. They're not constrictors, they're not venomous, they're not sea snakes, they're colubrids. And colubrids are such a wide variety of them, and they're just gorgeous. They're my favorite looking snake. They're my favorite snakes to take care of. They eat really well. They rarely have any health problems within reason. They're easy to keep comfortable. They're just my favorite. They're awesome. And not just easy, but beautiful. I think this is one of the most beautiful snakes that we have in our collection here at Once in a Wild. And Long certainly does belong to the category of creepy crawlies, but to me, snakes are not creepy whatsoever. Snakes are my favorite animal. Why do you guys think out there that people are afraid or nervous around snakes? Is it because of things that they've heard about them? Is it because of bad experiences? Is it because they're so different than us? Is it because a lot of snakes are venomous and can potentially be dangerous to humans when they get bitten? When we get bitten? Is it all the above? Is it misunderstandings? Is it movies? What do you think? Why do you think that people are afraid of snakes? I certainly love snakes. I don't find them creepy at all. I find them gorgeous. I find them very therapeutic to let kind of like slide through your fingers. And that is actually something we offer here at Once in a While as well. I mentioned it briefly when I was just listing everything out just randomly. We do offer animal therapy here at Once in a While, and that could be traditional animal therapy where you're just sitting or maybe hanging out with the animals and petting the animals, like our Flemish rabbit, our guinea pigs, tortoises, bearded dragons, even ball pythons. People might think that ball pythons are relaxing, depending on you, right? We're never going to force you to interact with an animal that you don't want to interact with. That's not what we're about, because that doesn't, that doesn't do anything but bad things to force people to do anything. But what we offer as well, in addition to traditional animal therapy, is going to be animal exposure therapy. So if somebody happens to be a little bit nervous around snakes, we can help you out by basically exposing you to animals. And it's not going to be a scary exposure, maybe a little bit for you because you're scared of them, but we're not going to force you to do anything outside of your comfort zone. So if the animal that you're afraid of is a snake, perhaps the first step is just having the snake in your space. Maybe the snake is still in an enclosure. Maybe I'm just holding the snake and you can like kind of look at them in person. Maybe we start virtually. Maybe that's how you want to start. It just kind of depends on you. And our exposure animal therapy is always custom and always just completely different for each and every person. So it's something that we have to do a lot of screening and communicating ahead of time on what your goals are. Maybe we do 3 sessions, and by the 3rd session, you're actually touching or holding the snake. Wouldn't that be cool? So Long is trying to climb up my body right now because this is a climbing species. We'll talk about that in a little bit, I think. Oh my gosh, she's gonna climb right into my hat. But that is something we offer as well with our animals. Some animals that people might be a little bit nervous around, like snakes, maybe even lizards. Some people are afraid of spiders, right? Or scorpions, bugs. We've got all kinds of animals, frogs. Some people are nervous around birds. I've known a few people that aren't comfortable with birds at all. We've got some ducks and we've got cockatiels that are very gentle that can help you conquer your fears. So that's something we offer as well. So if you're interested in any of that, or you know somebody that might benefit from animal exposure therapy and conquering fears like that, or apprehensions about animal, just let us know. We can help you out with a custom encounter. And those can be done virtually too. Maybe just teaching you about the animal virtually like this will help you warm up to the idea that they're not so bad after all. Now, this guy is an arboreal species, which means, well, he's semi-arboreal, but they climb really well. So they can certainly dwell in the trees, and they can also come down to the ground and hang out on the ground as well. So they have options. So we call them semi-arboreal. Arboreal means tree climbing or tree dwelling, tree living, etc. Arboreal is the root word is arbol, which in Spanish is actually the word tree, or the word arbor day, or the two words arbor day, the celebration of trees, right? Trees. So that is what they do best. They're going to be very good climbers. As you can see, I'm just kind of like, I'm not even putting any effort in holding him. He's just kind of hanging out in between my fingers as if they were tree branches. And he keeps trying to climb up with his body. Amazingly, snakes, of course, have no arms and legs, but they climb really well with their muscle power and their scales, which kind of work in tandem together to climb. They can certainly do that. And he kind of wraps himself around himself very easily. And he's pretty long now. His name is long, but remember his name is a Mandarin word. It's not an English word. Yeah, his name is really Dragon. That's his name. But Dragon here is pretty long. I would say he's around a 3 foot, maybe 3.5 foot snake now. When we got him, he was much smaller, a little tiny baby. He's still what we consider a juvenile. Now, the Chinese beauty snake has other close cousins in the Asian rat snake family, category, if you will, of colubrids. And these guys are related to other rat snakes as well. But the beauty snakes, or the Asian rat snakes, are so gorgeous, and there's many of them. This is actually one of the smallest of the Asian rat snakes. They are not very big at all. Some of the larger ones actually get up to around 6 to 8 foot. This type of snake, maybe a 6 foot snake maximum. So he would be quite a large specimen if he were 6 foot, but they always are growing as long as they're living. So they grow very gradually once they reach adulthood. But I mean, he could be pretty long, but he's not going to be as big as some of the other Asian rat snakes. I'm just reading some comments here. Yes, it's funny. Nikki's here. Hi, Nikki. It's funny that the phobia of snakes were able to help other animals like the blue-tongued skinks and even butterflies like the Attacus atlas, whose wings look like a pair of snakes. Yes, so animals across the world have a healthy respect and maybe even phobia or fear of snakes, because a lot of snakes eat other animals. In fact, all of them do. All snakes are predators, so they eat other animals, and so a lot of other animals will be a little bit nervous, at least around snakes, just because their instincts, right? And I'm sure that has to do with it as well, even though a human is never a natural prey to a snake ever. So snakes do not eat us. Snakes have eaten a couple of people in history, and it almost never ever happens. It's always a very tiny person and an extremely large and extremely starving snake situation. It really doesn't happen at all. It's not even worth mentioning. Our shoulder width is actually way too wide for any snake to eat easily. So it would have had to be an extremely tiny, maybe like a young child or something like that. But we really are not a food item to snakes whatsoever. They don't see us as food, hardly ever, ever, ever. And when they try to eat us, which has been like a couple times in all of history that we know of, unless you're going back to the dinosaur days where there's other species, I guess, that we, anyway, like Titanoboa or something, maybe. But especially for modern species that we know now, when that does happen and they try, they're usually going to spit them back out, or it's just not going to go well for either the snake or the human involved, right? Yeah, what's up with that? I don't know. But yes, other animals for sure have very good reasons to fear snakes, right? Because snakes do eat other animals. Snakes are carnivores after all, and that's what makes them so important. In general, snakes are extremely important animals in the natural food chain and the natural environment, because they're part of that food chain, right? They help to eat things. And if you think about it, a snake this small also gets eaten too in the wild. Sorry, long, it's just the truth. So they eat stuff and stuff eats them. That makes them an essential kind of mid animal in the food chain. So they're not a very big snake at all, especially for this species. They're pretty small. I mean, he's already about 4 or 5 years old, and he's only this small. So they grow kind of slowly, depending on how much food they get to eat. They're not the biggest, not the smallest. They're predators, though. But they have to watch out for predators too. So these guys are very quick. They'll get away from their enemies by slithering away very, very fast. They can also blend in quite nicely with their camouflage pattern. This will blend in very nicely in the trees, especially because of all the shadows and leaves and things. They can climb up a tree trunk, and they kind of look like the tree trunk as well. Also, this pattern is this and similar patterns, I should say, is really common on a lot of snakes for leaf litter. So if they're hanging out on the ground and there's a lot of leaves in the forest floor, or even grass, they're going to blend right in. You're not really even going to see them very well. So that's going to help them to hide. Their speed helps them get away. This is a non-venomous, non-poisonous, non-venomous. When we talk about snakes, it's venom, not poison, because venom is injected and poison is consumed or gets on your skin, right? So these guys are non-venomous. So they can't really bite for defense because there's not much going on inside of their mouth. So if they were to bite a big predator, that wouldn't be much of a defense. So really getting away or hiding in the first place is going to be their best way to stay safe. So yes, but yeah, lots of snakes eat lots of animals, and lots of animals are nervous around snakes, especially venomous snakes. A lot of animals don't stop to, double check if a snake is venomous or not. They just get away and leave the snake alone. But a lot of animals do eat them, like I keep saying. So some animals that might eat this guy in Asia, maybe some birds of prey. Those guys are really common predators of snakes. All kinds of animals, though. Really, any types of cats or canines that you can think of that live in Asia, that might be a natural predator of these guys. Asia also has things like crocodilians, right? And big lizards, all sorts of different predator options, if you will. So there's a lot of enemies. Birds of prey are a big one. Mammals, all kinds of stuff. Right? Pretty neat. These guys are beautiful. They are almost like 3 patterns in one. If you take a look, if he'll let you see him, he stops moving for like a hot second. You guys can see that his neck is patternless. So he has this beautiful face. Let's start with the face. He has this beautiful face with false eye spots or stripes right next to his eyes. That's going to elongate the appearance of his eye and maybe kind of camouflage where his eye is at. That's actually really handy for a lot of predators. Because if you think about it, when this animal is eating his prey, like a mouse or a bird or something like that, that mouse or bird or whatever is going to probably scratch, kick, bite, try to get away, things like that. And accidents can happen if they scratch the eye or try to harm the eye, bite for the face, things like that. And so if it's a little bit hard to see where the eye actually is, especially in a frantic situation, right? That's going to help him to protect his eyes. Now he's got 2, so if something happens to one eye, he can function with one eye from then on if he really has to. Snakes actually have a great sense of smell, and smell is most of how they get around and hunt and kind of figure out what's going on around them. So snakes that are blind actually do okay. It's not ideal, obviously, but if something happens to one eye, he has another one. But it would be ideal if he didn't have anything to happen to his eye. So the false eye spot on animals like orca whales and all sorts of different animals, boa constrictors have it, other snakes like him. And then if you look at his neck, it's patternless. It's so pretty. I don't know what the purpose of that is, but I love it. And then, of course, most of his body is going to be that kind of busy pattern that would blend into a lot of different things in nature. And then his tail is prehensile and wrapped around my wrist, but his tail is actually, and prehensile means grasping, by the way. That makes a lot of sense if you're a tree climbing snake. But these guys have kind of a striped tail with long stripes that kind of go along the body. Let's see if I can show you. Gently take his tail off of me. He's in a knot around my wrist, which I'm not complaining. It's fine. But I would love to show everybody your beautiful tail. These guys also have a very long tail. And you might be thinking, aren't all snakes having long tails? No. Some snakes have very short tails, actually. I'm going to show you where his tail begins, where the butt end of the snake is and where the tail starts. So on this snake, it's going to be right here where I'm grabbing there. And that rest of him here, the rest of him, from this finger here and all the way down is a tail. That's very long for a snake. Most snakes actually have a pretty short tail, but his tail is fully arboreal. It's fully prehensile, giving him the arboreal abilities. Look at him climbing on me. Prehensile body, really. But he has a great prehensile tail. But I love how they're basically like 3 patterns in one snake. It's just gorgeous. I just love them. Here's a good question. I'm going to highlight that again. Hello, Nikki again. How do animals eat venomous animals? Good question. Like the king snake, do they have something that keeps them immune? But what about if they get bitten? Good question. So this type of snake, as far as I know, I'm not sure if they eat venomous reptiles, but they very well could if they can overpower them fast enough not to get bitten. I don't think this particular species is immune to snake venoms, but animals like the king snake and even some others like the king cobra, for example, those guys are usually immune to most other snake venoms, and the king cobra is certainly immune to their own venom because they do eat each other. They're cannibals. A lot of snakes are like that. King snakes also eat their own kind, but king snakes are non-venomous. So let's talk about the king snake. King snakes are non-venomous colubrids, just like the rat snakes. I'm holding a rat snake, but let's talk about a king snake. King snakes are non-venomous colubrids, which eat venomous snakes in their own habitat. So, for example, a California king snake might eat a cottonmouth snake, which is very venomous, but they're immune to the venom. They're just straight up immune to it. And how that happened is through evolution, the miracle of evolution. Over time, the babies that were born and grew up were just immune to the venom. It's not through building up an immunity in the individual. So if the snake that is in question, the snake in the wild right now, say it's a California king snake in the wild right now, just like Slytherin, our California king snake, one of my favorites. The king snakes out there right now have developed over so many years the ability to not become affected by venom of other snakes. That's just something through evolution. It's not like them getting bitten and developing an immunity. It's not that. It's not like they're out there trying to get bitten or injecting venom into themselves and trying to get immune. I hope that makes sense. But it's literally just through time. It's through lots and lots of years of having really strong babies that are immune. And the ones that are not immune, they would get bitten in the past and not survive. And the ones that lived on and had more babies and more babies and more babies and generations and generations and generations forever and ever, you get the picture. They gradually just developed that power of being immune to venom. That is what we think. That is the scientific knowledge that we know now, that they are just born that way. Baby, you were born this way. But literally, they're just born like that. And the ones that are not, maybe they're less immune than others. Maybe there's some that still exist like that aren't going to make it because that's part of their food. Their food consists of lots of venomous snakes. That's one of the main things that they eat in the wild. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. That's not the case for every animal. That's just what I know about king snakes in particular, and the snakes that are immune to other snake venom. Is that it's just through time process and having lots of babies, and the ones that make it, they have more babies, and etc. 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 I hope that makes sense. Here we go. You normally see a patternless belly on snakes. Yes, most snakes do have their ventral or belly scales are kind of patternless. His are pretty patternless. They're kind of spotty, but a lot less patterned and actually kind of white than the dorsal. The dorsal is the back and the ventral is the belly, right? That's on all animals. Your belly is your ventral and your back is your dorsal. A dorsal fin on a dolphin is an easy way to remember that. Dorsal fin on the back. Ventral is your belly. So there are some snakes though, like the corn snake and some others, I believe bull snakes and pine snakes do this too, where they have kind of a checkerboard belly. I could be wrong about the bull snakes and the pine snakes. I'm just remembering something of a pattern. I know they have a really cool pattern, but for sure, corn snakes actually kind of look like this, but they're red. They're the red rat snake is the other name for the corn snake. We actually have one named Harlequin, and that's because of her coloration. She's red and black and white. But these guys, the corn snake rather, is another rat snake like this guy. They have a red back with a pattern on it that helps them camouflage, and on their belly they have a black and white checkerboard. Now that is actually for scaring away scary animals. So the corn snake is another super harmless colubrid like these guys, no venom, no nothing. Biting does hardly anything. These guys have kind of like Velcro teeth. They're really wimpy. They're just designed for hanging on to small animals and then swallowing them, right? They have a lot of teeth, but they're just tiny. So, not much of a defense there, right? But looking scary with a pattern helps a lot of animals. So, black and white already, like the California king snake, which is black and white all over, black and white stripes or bands or checkerboard pattern usually means danger, 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 danger. Most animals are not colored black and white with like a weird pattern like that. So animals that have black and white stripes, a skunk is a great example. Skunks are very stinky. They have a really great weapon of defense. Before a skunk sprays anyone, they give lots of warnings, but they also wear their warning of black and white stripes. The corn snake has black and white checkerboard pattern on their belly. So they'll be kind of cruising along, being a snake, and then if they see a scary animal, they'll lift up their body and show their belly just like this. And usually the animal in question, maybe it's a fox or a cat or something like that, sees the animal raise up, sees the snake raise up, and their belly looks like a totally different pattern than the dorsal. Like they change color and all of a sudden they're black and white checkerboard, which doesn't exist in nature. And it's like a stop sign for animals. They go, what the heck? And usually that will be enough time for the animal to hesitate, and then the snake can get away really fast. And that will help them to warn their enemies that they may be dangerous or at least questionable. And that will help them escape. That is why. Good question. Yes, yes, yes. But a lot of snakes just have more of a patternless belly because they don't really need to be camouflaged on their belly, which is usually on a tree branch, on the ground, not being seen. But some snakes do use their belly to as like a surprise witchcraft appearance. Like, whoa, witchcraft. That animal changed colors and I don't know why. I'm gonna think about this, and meanwhile the snake gets away. Just enough time for them to actually hesitate, right? So that doesn't exist in every animal. Every animal has their own means and methods of escape or things. This guy uses mostly camouflage and escape. They're pretty quick when they want to be, for sure. Great question. Again from Nikki. Here we go. Can snakes lose their teeth / fangs? Can they grow back? Yes. Most reptiles of all kinds, and when we talk about reptiles, there's 4 main categories, right? You've got snakes, you've got lizards, turtles and tortoises, and crocodilians, which are crocodile, alligators, gharial, and caiman, and others. So those are your 4 main categories. Now, turtles and tortoises have no teeth. So they are not included in this fun fact and ability that reptiles usually have. Tortoises have a beak like a bird. They're more like a parrot. They have a very strong beak, and they use their beak for either catching animals if you're a turtle and being an omnivore, eating all kinds of things. Or tortoises, they graze on grass and they eat all kinds of vegetation. That's what their beak is for. They can also use their beak for defense a little bit too. Turtles and tortoises have a beak that can grow, can wear down on its own, kind of like a bird's beak. They can actually manage that beak just fine by eating the right food, grazing enough, etc., etc. If their beak gets overgrown, you can trim it. It does have like a keratin material that it's made out of on just like your nail. You have like the nail and you have the quick of the nail. You can't cut too short, etc., or file too short. It would hurt them. But where it's like kind of dead, that will wear down, and it does kind of grow and grow and grow continuously. So that's more like a bird's beak, right? But the other reptile, snakes, lizards, and crocodilians, they regenerate their teeth as they lose them. Snakes do the same thing. Snakes will kind of regrow their teeth periodically as they need to. So if they lose a tooth hunting, biting another animal, right? Maybe even biting for defense, etc., they will regenerate a tooth. That happens a lot. When I used to work with venomous snakes, the teeth would sometimes come out, and you would find when you're cleaning their enclosures and things, you would find some of the old dead fangs, and you could just pick them up, and they're just like a dead tooth. Isn't that neat? But yes, they will regenerate their teeth or fangs, depending on the snake we're talking about, as they need them. So it just kind of happens automatically for them. Very handy, right? They also shed their skin, don't they? All reptiles do that. Snakes are the most famous for shedding their skin because they're the best at it, in my opinion. They will shed all in one piece, just like if you're taking off a sock inside out. That's what their shed kind of looks like and how it operates when it comes off. They do that about once a month, more or less. It's usually anywhere from 4 to 5 weeks for a healthy snake. And baby snakes will shed slightly more often because they're trying to grow up really fast. And hello, he's trying to sniff my little nose. his little nose, his little tongue is sniffing my little nose. But anyway, yes. So reptiles do shed their skin as well. So it's a regenerative process of their epidermis, right? So shedding your skin is also really handy to be able to heal really quickly, to be able to get rid of external parasites, and just be like a new you about once a month. It's actually really, really nice for them. So you're gonna go around my neck. I usually don't let snakes crawl around my neck and be carried around my neck, but he's a pretty skinny snake. I'm not super worried about him choking me or anything like that. He's also not a constrictor, but he's strong nonetheless. He's just really long and slender, etc. I don't know why, Nikki. Nikki's asking, why do animals like reptiles and amphibians have the power to regenerate, unlike mammals or other animals? I don't know. I have no idea. I guess they're just better than us. Why? The why questions, right? Why didn't we get the ability to regenerate our limbs like an axolotl? Why didn't we get the ability to regenerate our teeth like a reptile? I don't know why. They're just very different than us. Now, you guys know that all reptiles are cold-blooded. That doesn't mean they have cold blood coursing through their veins. That's ridiculous. They don't. They actually have just whatever body temperature is around them. So they don't have their own warmth or coolness. They just adapt to whatever is around them. So in this room right now, it's about 75 degrees with the air conditioning on, right? How nice to have air conditioning, right? Can you imagine the olden days when there wasn't such a thing? But anyway, these guys will take on whatever temperatures around them. If they want to warm up in nature, they'll go sunbathe. If they want to cool off, they will maybe go into the shade or take a little dip in some water, and then they'll just do so. So they kind of have to regulate their own body temperature as opposed to just leaving it on automatic, like we tend to take for granted, right? Time to quench my dry throat for a little bit. But yeah, I don't know why. It would be nice. Well, Long, you're beautiful and gorgeous. Let's talk about your senses really fast. I love to talk about animal senses. So snakes have no ears whatsoever, so they don't hear very well. They can sense sounds, though, through their bones. And that sounds weird, but it's through vibration. So they do feel sound through their jawbone. They do feel sound through their body in general. They can sense certain tones, but they really don't hear very well at all in general. So sound is not their best sense. Or hearing, I should say. Hearing sounds is not their best sense. Also, they don't see very well. Snakes in general have pretty poor vision, although they are extremely alert animals most of the time. And they do see. They're not blind. Like I said before when we were talking about the eyes. If he loses an eye, he's okay. But they're not blind. They do see, and they don't know the difference, right? They're used to the blurry vision. They're used to the black and white kind of no color vision, right? But it's more for shadows, movement. They don't see far distances. They see kind of up close, and that's about it. And what else? These guys don't really have a sense of taste either. Great sense of touch, right? We talked about touch. They can experience sound through touch. So no ears, poor vision. Now their eyes are always open. They don't ever blink. They have a scale over their eye, which is clear. It's called a spectacle scale, and the spectacle scale protects their eye and keeps it moisturized. And they can move their eyes a little bit to kind of look around, but their vision's pretty limited, but they do see some, right? But, however, their best sense by far is their sense of smell. And how they smell is with their tongue. They have a forked tongue. The tongue will flicker in and out almost all the time as long as they're alert. And that helps them to figure out what's going on around them. It helps them to sense food or danger or just friends, right? Or environmental smells. And how they do that is they'll stick their tongue out lots and lots and lots, rapidly as well. They have a forked tongue, which means they have 2 points on the end of the tongue. And those 2 points help them smell in different directions. That's how they get a sense of direction. Vision a little bit, but also smell for sure with the forked tongue. That's their main sense. It's kind of like the feelers of an insect. It reminds me of that, but it's also like us. I mean, we can look around, listen around, and we take it for granted how much we get directional sensory from all of that, right? These guys get that from the sense of smell on the tongue. So they're sticking out their tongue, getting a sense of direction, taking in scent particles from the air or scent particles on surfaces, and then the tongue goes back into their mouth and it rubs on the roof of their mouth, and the roof of their mouth has a little pocket in there. It's like a little hole, and the tongue will go into the pocket, and tell the brain directly all kinds of information that we don't even understand through smell. So that is kind of like their sight. They get lots of information from smell, and that's how they navigate. Blind snakes that don't see, or that something's happened to their eyes, etc., they can get around just fine with their sense of smell because of the tongue. That's a pretty unique and amazing tongue, if you ask me. I think they're just gorgeous. Say hi to our Instagram followers, Long. I think he's gorgeous. He's not a slimy animal by any means. Amphibians and fish are slimy. Slugs too, right? Some of your inverts. Snakes are not slimy. Snakes are beautiful, shiny, dry, waterproof, the opposite of slimy, and they get a bad rep for being gross, being dirty. They're not. They're actually very, very clean animals. They only use the restroom about once a week for most species. They only eat about once a week for most species. Some snakes eat even less than that. And so they're actually pretty clean animals for the most part, especially in the wild when they're getting out away from their messes all the time. Now, when you have snakes in the care of humans, you need to make sure and keep them clean because they're in a kind of a more limited environment, if you will, in an enclosure, right? Which is fine. That's fine for a snake to be in an enclosure. You have to keep them safe and temperature controlled and all of that. But you have to be the one responsible for cleaning up their messes, or else they're going to crawl in it. So they're not dirty except for when it's our fault. They're just not a dirty animal. They don't want to be dirty. They're not smelly. They smell really well with their sense of smell, but they don't smell bad at all. Their poop can smell bad, but whose poop doesn't smell bad? So the forked tongue, Nikki's asking, why do some reptiles have forked tongue? Not all reptiles have forked tongues. Tortoises certainly don't. Turtles don't. Not every lizard has a forked tongue. Every snake has a forked tongue, and crocodilians do not have a forked tongue. But the animals that do have a forked tongue, like snakes and like monitor lizards and tegus, I think that's all of them. Gila Monster, some of the other lizards, right? They have forked tongues. That's to give them a sense of direction with the tongue, and that's a sense of smell. So it's picking up smell particles, it's giving them directions. So just like the feelers of a bug, insect, the antenna, right? That gives them the ability to figure out directions as well. That's why we have 2 ears and 2 eyes. Our eyes are fixated in the front, but some animals, their eyes are kind of on the sides. They can get a sense of direction with the eyes. We do too, a little bit. But the ears, especially on us, that gives us a directional ability to hear, right? That's why the forked tongue helps them do that. Now, some lizards, like iguana, they still stick their tongue out sometimes, and they might lick surfaces or taste the air a little bit, but they're not going to do that as much as other lizards. But they still can do that, just like any animal. Can you let me go so I can let you go rest, and so you can not be the animal that's out the whole time? He just doesn't want to let me go, I guess. What a nice snake. Well, Long, you did great teaching people about snakes of the world, including snakes from Asia, like you, right? Let me go ahead and get him unwrapped away from my wrist. He is such a good snake, though. He is so sweet. He can be a little wiggly sometimes, but that doesn't bother me whatsoever. And he is very, very gentle and very soft. Okay, so he is nice and secure. I'm going to switch things around a little bit. And we are actually going to meet a invertebrate next. Now, a lot of people are afraid of snakes. I probably get more people letting me know that they have a fear of snakes more than any other animal. And that's partially why we started Once in a Wild, is to dispel rumors and myths about some scary animals, if you will. Because a lot of people, when they're afraid of animals, they then harm animals. And snakes are my favorite animals, so I definitely don't want to see any snakes in the wild becoming destroyed by humans. They really should be left alone at all times. I do highly recommend that you do not pick up snakes in your own environment, even if you think it's something harmless, or if you want to harm a snake, please don't do that either. But if you think it's a harmless snake and you're just guessing and you're picking up snakes, that is not a good idea. Number one, it's very stressful for you sometimes, and also for the snake. And number two, you might get bitten by something that you may not be familiar with. Maybe it was venomous, maybe it was non-venomous. Just be very careful, because accidents can happen, even if it's a non-native species that maybe somebody owned, it escaped. Then what are you going to do if it's a venomous species? So that's going to be very dangerous for you. I highly recommend that is left to the professionals and experts. Herpetologists, that's fine. You're studying snakes, you're learning about them, and you know what you're doing, right? It is fine. If you're a snake removal service or something like that, that is obviously fine as well. Any animal professional that knows what they're doing with snakes, I'm not talking to you guys, but those kids out there and those parents and whatnot that are really not experts in snakes, really don't know what you're looking at, and also it stresses out the animal to be caught up and played with. So please leave them alone in the wild. Not every snake as well is going to be as nice as our snakes are. Our snakes are used to people. They were, I'm pretty sure all of them, if not, well, most of them, if not all of them, were born in captivity, so they don't know what the wild is. So they're a lot different than a snake from the outside, from the wild, that is not used to people, afraid of you, and can bite, right? And all wild animals might bite you. So please don't pick up any wildlife. It is very important. But we like to dispel rumors and myths about the animals that people are afraid of. That way, those animals can be okay. Snakes are very, very important animals. They're beautiful animals. They need much respect and love as any other species. And it's really a shame that people have so many misconceptions about snakes. A lot of people say the only good snake is a dead snake. That's completely wrong. Snakes are very important. They eat a lot of rodents for us. And without predators like that, we would be very, very already, we're already in a bad way, but we would have way more diseases than, than now. And with predators in the environment to keep their ecosystems in balance and check and the food chain in check, then we do pretty well. And they're there for a reason. And also, they have the right to live too. So that's part of why we opened up Once in a Wild, is to teach people about one of my favorite animals, snakes, and to help people understand that they can just leave them alone and they'll leave you alone, right? One great way to scare away a snake, if you happen to be afraid of snakes and you have a snake in your backyard, use a water hose. If you grab your water hose and just spray in the direction of the snake, don't be mean to them and spray them like directly, but you can like make a little, like a mist towards the snake, or even like a little shower. It's not going to hurt anybody. The snake will leave. The snake will be like, whoa, where'd that cold water come from? I'm leaving. And they're going to get away from you. Usually when they sense, whether by smell, vibration, or seeing a human, usually they will leave as well. They don't want anything to do with this big scary primate that may or may not harm them. So leave snakes alone and they'll leave you alone. Checking in with you guys over here on Instagram. Hello, everyone on Instagram. Hello across social media if you're just joining us. My name is Amanda. This is Once in a Wild, and it is Once in a Wild Wednesday. Welcome or welcome back. Each and every Wednesday, we try to broadcast at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you guys are interested in your own animal programs, please don't hesitate to let me know. We would love to get you on the schedule and get your own animal program going. You can customize and pick the animals that you would like to meet in person or virtually. Something for everybody. So don't wait, book now, because we're booking everything very fast. Okay, let's go ahead and meet an invertebrate, which is another very misunderstood animal category. Lots and lots and lots of people are afraid of this animal. And there's no reason to be, because this animal doesn't even live in our countries. Here in the Americas, this animal's from Africa. Now, if you're from Africa, you might see these guys down in the south. Well, down in South Africa, the country, but also South African countries in general, I've been told. This is the African flat rock scorpion. Xena is her name, and Xena decided she wanted to hang out on top of a rock. Can you guys see over on Instagram? I'll bring her back for you to see in just a little bit. But Xena is an African flat rock scorpion, so how appropriate that she's hanging out on a rock. They call them the flat rock scorpion because they can flatten their bodies, very, very slender, and hide right underneath stuff, like fallen logs, holes in the ground, crevasses and crevices, and in between rocks, of course, slate rocks and things like that. That keeps them nice and safe. This is a desert species of scorpion. They are really only found in very, very hot climates, at least during the day it's hot, and down south in South Africa and surrounding countries, I believe, in South Africa. This is a very large scorpion species. As you can see, she's pretty big. It is actually one of the largest species in the world. There's two main species that are very, very large. One is the African flat rock scorpion, and the other one is the emperor scorpion, another African species. So those two are the biggest, and they're kind of like a tie. This one is not as heavy as the emperor scorpion, but they're actually bigger, like width and lengthwise. And the emperor scorpion is a little chunkier, right? But she's a very large African flat rock scorpion. She's actually the largest one I've ever seen. Her name is Xena, like I said, and Xena Oh, we don't know her age because we got her as an adult, so we have no idea how old she is, but she's certainly an adult, and she's a mature female. She's even had babies before. She actually had babies a few years back. She had 39 babies. She was a great mom. Scorpions are really good mothers. The babies are born live, and they can have lots of babies, but not a whole ton. If you think about like tarantulas, for example, they can have like thousands of babies. These guys usually only have a few dozen, maybe 30, 40, 50 at the most. Sometimes they have as little as 10. It just kind of depends on the mom and the fertility and everything. But she had 39 exactly. And I thought it was 40, but then there were 39. And I was like, oh, it was so close. She does not want to come off of her rock today. That's okay. She sticks right to it. So it's easy to hold her like that. But the babies are born and then they're white when they come out after birth. And they will crawl onto mom's back and hang out on the back until maybe like a couple weeks or so, and then they get their hard exoskeleton, because this of course is an invertebrate. They don't have any bones. They have an exoskeleton instead. Invertebrate literally means no spine, no vertebrae, but they don't have any bones whatsoever, so it's no bones at all. Invertebrate. And instead of that, they have a hard outer shell, just like a crab, like an insect, a spider. Scorpions too, right? Scorpions are arachnids like spiders. Included in the arachnids is also animals like ticks and mites. Those are actually arachnids too. They're not insects. Arachnids have 2 body parts, 8 legs, and 2 arms, as opposed to 3 body parts, 6 legs, and 2 antennae. Like an insect. So that's a big difference. And then there's other animals like centipedes, millipedes that are arthropods, but they're not insects or arachnid. Lots and lots of invertebrates in the world. There's more invertebrates than any other type of animal on planet Earth, and there are more variety of those guys than any other type of animal on Earth as well. They're really cool. So Xena, like I said, one of the largest type of scorpion in the world. A lot of people ask me, "Oh my gosh, how are you holding her?" First of all, she's not even on my bare hand today. She usually is. She's gonna climb on my hand now. Oh, baby voice. You wanna climb on my hand? She's like, never mind, stinky human. I take it back. But anyway, she can be on my hand. That is okay. If she wants to come down, she certainly can do that. Don't leave. But she's not dangerous to humans. She's harmless. These guys are very large, but their venom is extremely mild. So they actually have very, very mild venom, like I said, and they don't even really use their venom for much of anything. A little bit of defense. That's about it. But it's more of like scaring away enemies. Their main predators are actually animals like meerkats and other animals like that, mammals and foxes and all sorts of animals that eat them. And so scaring them away, maybe pinching at them with their claws, or trying to sting a little bit with their tail and their telson and stinger. Now the telson is actually where the venom is stored, which is that little ball right there. Can you guys see the telson? It's the little ball on the end of their tail. That's where the venom gland is. And then the stinger, of course, is actually the needle that would deliver the venom. But in this species, like I keep saying over and over, she's harmless to almost everyone. They don't even use their venom to subdue their food like other scorpions do. So most scorpions will use their venom to subdue food, which means to paralyze or incapacitate, poison their food. So most scorpions will grab animals that they're going to eat because they're carnivores, right? They'll eat things like roaches, for example. So a scorpion like this might grab a roach with their claws. Their claws are called pedipalps, but they have big pedipalps, big strong arms, and big claws, right? And this and all scorpions might use their claws to pinch their food like a bug, a roach, or whatever, cricket, and they will hold on to it. And then most scorpions will swing over with the tail and pierce with the stinger and inject venom with the telson, which is the ball end, right? And that will deliver venom into the food. The food will be paralyzed, poisoned, and incapacitated. They can't get away. And while holding on to them at the same time, it's a really efficient way to get your food ready. And then the venom will also kind of aid in a little bit of pre-digestion as well. But these guys have really good saliva that they will drool all over their food. Now, this species, though, just grabs their food and starts munching down. They will pinch the food. I'm going to show you. I'm going to set her down for a hot second. She'll grab the food like this. She might even grab one bug over here, one bug over there, but she'll grab a bug and just start eating. And their mouth is kind of like two, I think it's just two. Yeah, they have like two little claws for a mouth. They're called chelicerae, which are mouth parts of arachnids, but they have kind of little miniature claws for a mouth. But what they do is they just salivate or drool, they spit all over their food as they're eating it, and that breaks down the food too. So that's going to help to be able to eat the food. Just like all of us, we have saliva. We chew our food. These guys are a lot different than like a spider. A spider will use venom with their fangs in the front. They don't have a tail on a spider, right? That would be strange. A spider doesn't have the big claws. So what a spider, like a tarantula, for example, will do is they will grab their food with their two little arms, but then immediately bite with two fangs like this, and then they will wait for their venom to take effect and paralyze the food and start killing the food, essentially. And then the spider will actually drool all over the food simultaneously while envenomating. And that will cause the food to start breaking down and liquefying. And then what a spider does once the prey starts liquefying is they will also suck the liquefied food like a straw. Spiders have no ability to chew like a scorpion can. Scorpions actually do have the chewing ability and the drooling ability simultaneously, and they also have the claws and the tail. So scorpions are pretty advanced arachnids compared to spiders, in my opinion. But spiders have their own really neat things too. Now, both scorpions and spiders have hair on their bodies. That's another thing that they share. Scorpions aren't nearly as hairy as tarantulas, for example, but they do have little blonde hairs. I don't know if you can see. It's kind of hard to see in this light. Just gonna reach out and grab you guys. Oh yeah, there's a little bit on her claw right here next to my finger. You can probably see some of the hair there. I can on the camera where my pinky is wiggling right there. You can see some of her hair. So those hairs are pretty sparse on this species and most species of scorpions. Most species you wouldn't even know they had hair until you got a good look up close. But they do have little kind of blonde hairs all over them, and they're all over her. I see them on her tail, her legs, kind of everywhere. Her kind of dorsal or back doesn't really have any hair, but everywhere else she's got hair all over. And that's going to help her to feel vibrations and feel animals approaching. Could be danger for her, could be food, anything, right? Vibrations in general. It's going to keep her safe. It's going to help her hunt and things like that. These guys can also pick up smells with their hairy bodies and pick up pheromones from maybe mates and during the mating season and things. What else can they do? It's kind of like hearing and touching at the same time. But that gives them a really good sensation of touch. That's their main sense. Like the snake has the main sense of smell. These guys have their main sense as sense of touch, but touch and hearing kind of at the same time, and smell. They can pick up smells. Now they do have eyes. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. Her eyes, she's got two on the top of her body, and then she's got two eyes on each cheek. I don't even know if they're really called cheeks. I forget what they're actually called, but kind of like the cheek area. She's got two more eyes on each side of her cheek there. So two on the top and two on each cheek. So 2, 4, and 6 eyes. 6 eyes total, but their vision's really bad. So they have very poor eyesight. These guys are a nocturnal species that lives underground or underneath rocks. So they really use their eyesight for just sensing shadows and a little bit of movement. But remember, they use their sense of touch with the hairs to mostly get around and feel all of that movement taking place too. So that's really the main thing they do. But they do have very primitive eyes. They use them a little bit, but not much. They definitely don't have traditional ears. They feel instead of hearing with ears. What else? They don't have a nose. They pick up scents in their body with hair. Super weird. They're so different than us. I love them. Are scorpions related to crabs? Distantly. Distantly, I believe. I'm no entomologist, so I'm not an invertebrate expert or an insect or arachnid or any of those guys expert, arthropod expert, but I do know a little bit, and distantly they're related. And did you know that scorpions actually glow under a black light? So certain types of ultraviolet or black lights will make a scorpion glow kind of like a greenish color. So they have almost like a bioluminescence about their body under certain lights. Now, it's not something that they control or flash colors or really anything with. We don't know why they have that. But some scientists think it's a leftover item kind of from sea creatures because these guys are very ancient and so were a lot of sea life creatures, right? Scorpions back in the dinosaur days, which are different periods of time, right? But I forget how long, but prehistoric time. Let's just say that. Scorpions back in prehistoric times with some capacity, they were huge. They were about 4 feet long, and a lot of them lived underwater. So they were more like a lobster than a scorpion that we know today. This is a desert species, for example, that doesn't really even drink water. So, but I drink water and I need to drink right now, or else I'm going to have a cracky voice. But these guys used to be sea creatures. So, yes, in some capacity, I don't know all the science behind that. I would love to do more studying on them and their evolution and things. But these guys do glow under a black light, and a lot of animals that live underwater have bioluminescence or glowing bodies with different properties in their bodies and skin. So, it makes you kind of wonder, is that something left over, from evolution back in the day? Are they just related to a lot of sea creatures from back in the day? That would make a lot of sense to me. So I love that. I love that theory. A lot of scientists are kind of adapting that theory now about them. We do know back in the old days the scorpions were much larger and they were really more ocean dwelling. This animal, like I said, is a desert animal. They don't eat all the time. They don't have to eat, but maybe like every 2 to 4 months. And they can go a full year with very little consequences without eating whatsoever. And this animal never drinks water. Now, we still give her water and we still give her food a lot more often than every 2 or 3 or 4 months. But she doesn't always eat, and that's okay. She's fine. These guys get all the water they need, though, from the food they eat. Because what do they eat? They eat bugs, and bugs are full of moisture, aren't they? And that is it. That's all they need. She's flattening her tail right now. Now, a lot of scorpions will carry their tails kind of over their backs, and she can certainly do that too. We can kind of see that right here. She can carry her tail over her back. These guys also will kind of like flatten their tail just like this because they're a species that likes to be in very small crevices and small safe places. They're the opposite of claustrophobic. They really like to squeeze into small places and stay safe. And they really don't come out very often in nature. They'll hide all the time from danger because coming out is going to be a risky maneuver, right? A risky choice to be able to get eaten by things and whatnot. But they will come out to find food. They might wait around for food to come to them sometimes into their caves and crevices. But they'll move from here to there sometimes, but it's only going to be at night, and it's very rarely. So this animal is a desert animal, like I keep saying over and over. Their daytime is extremely hot, so they really don't venture out at all except for at night. So Xena mostly comes out at night, mostly. And she's my little xenomorph, if you know what that is. But yeah, so they really don't have any sort of aquatic tendencies whatsoever, even though their long lost ancient relatives were from the ocean. So we think, and so we have seen evidence of, right? Oh, I think she's going to come off the rock finally and onto my hand. Hi, Xena. We can show everybody that you're not so scary. There she is, right on my hand. In fact, I don't want her to fall down, but her legs are really good at gripping. So she's got little toes, and on her toes are claws. They're kind of like little cat claws. Now, on spiders, those claws are retractable. On scorpions, they are not, but they have 2 little claws on each toe, and they have 4 walking legs on each side, so that's 8 in all, 8 walking legs. And on spiders, they actually have 2 arms that are really similar to their legs. They're just short. And on spiders, they have 2 claws on, like 2 little nail claws on their short arms. But these guys have big claws instead of short arms. They don't need claws on their claws, right? That doesn't make any sense. So their walking legs are their 4 walking legs and 2 giant claw arms. Aren't they neat? Now, if you see a scorpion in your own backyard, please don't pick them up. Most scorpions are at least painful to get stung by, but not every scorpion is deadly. That's really not a true thing at all. It's a super big myth. I would say I forget what the percentage is. I know there are around 1,600 known species of scorpion on planet Earth today, and I believe it's like 2% that can actually kill a person. Now, I don't recommend picking them up because there might be some that still hurt when they sting because they're trying to defend themselves and their venom is very strong. But some scorpion species, their claws are tiny and their tail is fat, and that tells you they have more venom than like this type of scorpion that has a tiny tail and giant claws, because they use their claws for crushing and for grabbing onto their food instead of venom to incapacitate their food, if that makes sense. Bigger tail, bigger, fatter telson, and bigger stinger sometimes, although the stinger is tiny, but the bigger, fatter tail and bigger bulbous telson, which is the ball on the end, the more venom usually, and smaller claws, more venom usually. So this animal has big, giant claws and a tiny tail, so I know I'm fine. Plus, I have been stung by African flat rock scorpions before, including Xena, and it doesn't even hurt. It's super duper lame. Their venom is nothing. Do the babies eat the mom? No, they don't. Not in scorpions anyway. I know a lot of other arthropods, insects, things like that. I know they do eat the mom because mom will sometimes pass away after she gives birth. As you can see, Xena did not pass away after giving birth. This was a few years ago. Scorpions can have multiple litters, if you will, or broods of babies throughout their lifetime. And this species of scorpion can live easily into their 30s or 40s. They're a very long-lived and slow-growing species. But no, they don't. The babies do not eat mom. Babies will actually be born. They actually will crawl onto mom's back and hang out there for a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks tops, until they get their exoskeleton, which hardens around them. Then they're a little bit safer to kind of go on their own. And they'll just leave. Mom will actually take care of them, defend them, water and feed them, even though she doesn't drink water, but she will actually chew up food and make sure it's nice and liquidy and put food on her back for the babies and feed them. Isn't that cute? But she pre-chews it for them. Yum, just like baby food. But anyway, these guys will not eat their mothers. And mother doesn't usually eat them either. Sometimes in human care, when these guys are bred in captivity, they will eat their babies because they're in an enclosed space with them. So it's like after a while, they kind of forget that they're their babies. So if you leave them alone with mom for too long, then she can see them as a food item, but it doesn't happen a whole lot, is what I'm trying to say. So neither one of them typically eat each other. But scorpions in general might eat each other as adults. But spiders are actually more well known for that than scorpions. Good question. Well, that was Xena, the African flat rock scorpion. Please do not give me a high five at this time. That might squash her. But also, another very misunderstood animal. As you can see, she's not hurting anybody. She's not hurting me. I'm fine. Even if she were to pinch me, I'd be fine. Even if she were to sting me, I'd be fine. Not every scorpion species is created equal, and most of them are harmless. So if you do see a scorpion in your own house or environment, backyard, don't pick them up. Right? We leave them alone if you see them. If you do have one in your home, you can brush them out the door with a broom or gather them up underneath a glass with a piece of paper and just let them go. Scorpions do a lot for us by eating lots of pesky bugs. And if you have a scorpion infestation or something like that, please call professional help to be able to help you with your infestation, I suppose. But in general, we can kind of leave them alone. They'll leave you alone. Look in your shoes if you happen to live in warmer places in the United States and otherwise throughout the world. Check your shoes. Shake your shoes out for bugs and scorpions. And look where you step, etc. Just use common sense and you should be fine. Those of you on Instagram, say goodbye to Xena. She is gorgeous. I just love her so much. She's such an impressive scorpion. She's one of my favorites to kind of present because she is very easy to hold. As you can see, she just kind of parks herself. And she's really good at gripping so she doesn't fall down like other scorpions can sometimes. So I love emperor scorpions too. They're beautiful, and big and impressive. But emperor scorpions like to move around a lot, and they tend to not be as good at gripping onto a surface, so they can fall a lot easier, and it's harder to juggle them while you're presenting them. So I really like the African flat rock scorpions. They're my favorite. Okay. I have a lot of favorite animals. But as far as the scorpions, they're actually my favorite to present. Xena is particularly awesome and impressive. So now we're going to bring out our final animal. We met a snake from Asia. We met a scorpion from Africa. Pardon me, you guys. Allergies. Ooh, pardon me. You forget me, right? So, and now we're going to meet a lizard from the Australasian continent. So some of these type of lizards are from the islands surrounding Australia, like Indonesia. And that's actually where this particular type of lizard is found in the wild. They're an Indonesian species, or subspecies, I should say. But there are other subspecies that live in Australia as well. So Australasia, but mostly Australia, is where this next species of lizard comes from. This is going to be a lizard. I mentioned that we were meeting 2 reptiles and 1 invertebrate. This here is BT, the blue-tongued skink lizard. Can you guys see him over here? Make sure you guys can see. Maybe a little bit better. So this is BT, the blue-tongued skink. These guys, like I said, are from the Australasian continent, and they're found in places like Indonesia, Australian mainland, all over the place. They're pretty common, and skinks in general are basically smooth, glass-like lizards that are very kind of short-legged, belly to the ground. They have this similar appearance across the board. Skinks are found all over the world, including the United States. Skinks in the United States are much smaller than this species. In fact, BT, the blue-tongued skink before you, can get a lot bigger than this as well. About at least a third or so bigger than this. And the ones here in the US, very tiny. Like I said before, you won't even notice them most of the time unless you are raking leaves, doing your yard and the garden, things like that. They stay hidden very, very well. They're great at hiding. They're usually belly down to the ground. They can hide right underneath the grass, right underneath the leaf litter, right underneath the sand, etc. And no different for this species, the blue-tongued skink, which, by the way, the blue-tongued skink does have a blue tongue. There it is, right on cue. These guys mimic snakes. So that is actually how this species stays safe most of the time in the wild. So they have a very slender body for a lizard, a very long body for, and proportionately long, snake-like body. They have a big head, which from kind of a aerial view, a bird's eye view, looks like a triangular shaped head, right? And their legs are super tiny. Their legs are super tiny. So they have legs, and they have arms, but they don't see them most of the time when they are, or they, meaning other animals, don't see them most of the time when they're hanging out on the ground. They're very well hidden. And they can even kind of like snuggle down into the substrate, whether it be grass, sand, leaf litter, whatever. Guys, I'm going to need to be right back. Hold on. All right. Sorry, you guys. I had to take a moment to actually clear my throat and get a drink. I was fine until just now. So please forgive me. But these guys, like I said, they do mimic snakes. And a lot of animals, like we talked about already when Nikki was asking, are a little bit fearful of snakes because a lot of animals are eaten by snakes or they know that snakes may be venomous. So by default, this animal looks like a snake. It hisses like a snake sometimes when they feel afraid. They even have a blue tongue, which is similar to a certain viper in the Australasian continent, especially the mainland of Australia, called the death adder. Death adders also have a similar kind of striped pattern on their backs, and like I said, a blue tongue. Now, this lizard does not have a forked tongue like a snake. They actually have a solid tongue, if you got a chance to see it. Their tongue is more like ours than a snake's tongue, but they do stick out their tongue quite a bit. And when they feel really threatened, they quit pretending to be a snake and they will just stick out their tongue entirely. Pardon me. They will actually stick out their tongue, kind of like that. Oh, that made it worse. And they will stick out their entire tongue, and their entire tongue is blue colored. Now, blue coloration is even more rare than black and white. We talked about black and white coloration with some animal defense. Blue coloration is even more rare. So when bright colors like blues, bright yellows, bright oranges, things like that, I'm gonna need a cough drop here in a minute. I promise it's allergies, you guys. I'm fine. So sorry. If animals see those weird colors, usually they'll avoid them. They'll say, hey, that animal might be venomous. It might have poison. It could be dangerous in some capacity, so they'll leave it alone. So that helps them out too. But the first default kind of tactic for this species is to mimic a snake because they look so much like a snake, especially from a distance, and they can certainly kind of ride their body around, hiss, hide their legs and arms. It works really well for them. Now, this animal's not a snake. Of course, it has legs, but did you know that there is a relative of the skinks known as the legless lizards? There are, yes, legless lizards. It's literally what it says. A lizard with no legs. Now, those guys have evolved to have 0 legs, and they're still a lizard. So if you saw a lizard with no legs, how would you tell it's a lizard? Well, there's a few ways. Number one, this animal does not have a forked tongue. Like we saw before, the snake had a forked tongue. This animal sticking out its tongue is more solid, like our tongue. That's the first giveaway. But then some lizards do have a forked tongue. So if they still have a forked tongue, how would you tell? Another way you can tell, ears. This lizard has ear holes. Snakes have 0 ear holes. So I'm trying to see if you guys can see. There's the ear hole. There's 2 of those. So these guys hear great, and they do have ears that actually hear, unlike a snake. Another thing is going to be eyelids. So this type of lizard and most lizards actually do blink and have eyelids. There's a few exceptions, like some geckos, for example, do not have eyelids. And then there's some lizards, by the way, like chameleons that have no ears either. So there's always exceptions. But if you see ears, eyelids, legs, of course, or a fleshy, solid tongue, that will be a few giveaways that it's not a snake at all. It's just pretending to be one, which helps them to stay safe from animals that are afraid of snakes. Now, what does this animal eat? Well, it's a hunter, but also an omnivore. So these guys actually don't just hunt other animals and eat them. They will also eat, dead animals sometimes. If they find a dead animal, that's actually their favorite, is animals that aren't very fast, like slugs and snails, or animals already dead, like a dead mouse or a dead bird, lizard. They will be a scavenger sometimes, but they'll also hunt a little bit. They'll eat rodents. They'll eat other small lizards like geckos. They'll eat worms and bugs, of course, snails and slugs, like I mentioned already. That's one of their favorites, but they're not picky eaters at all. In the wild, these guys are very opportunistic, but they don't only eat meat, they also eat fruits and vegetables too. So they're omnivores. Think of them as like the pigs of the lizard world. Very non-picky indeed. So they're eating machines. They don't necessarily have to eat every day, of course, like every reptile pretty much. But they could if they want to, and they just get really chunky. But these guys will eat maybe every 3 days. They'll scavenge or find fruit or vegetable to eat in some capacity. We usually feed BT about 3 to 4 times a week, just depending. And these guys do just fine without eating every day, like I mentioned. That's mostly a reptile and, a cold-blooded animal thing in general. Most of your, what are they? Ectothermic animals that are cold-blooded, if you will, do not have to eat every day because their metabolism is very, very different than us. We, as warm-blooded animals, like mammals and birds, we have to eat pretty much daily to survive, but not every mammal eats every day, too. A lot of your carnivorous type mammals don't eat every single day, but they would like to. Pretty cool. Now, I think BT is one of the cutest species of lizard in the world, the blue-tongued skink. In fact, blue-tongued skinks are one of my favorite lizards to recommend for pets for the right person. A lot of people ask us, like, does this animal make a good pet? Does that animal make a good pet? It depends on what you mean by a good pet. Do you want an animal that really enjoys being held and cuddled? Then a reptile is not really your probably number one option. Most reptiles in general, and most invertebrates in general, aren't really cuddly, and amphibians too. But a lot of them, like the blue-tongued skink, bearded dragons, I can't think of any more off the top of my head. Some of your snakes, like ball pythons, they tolerate being held very, very well. Some of the corn snakes and king snakes and rat snakes are like that too. But they're not necessarily for everyone that doesn't know what they're doing handling them, right? But some lizards and others are pretty tolerant of handling in general. But it's more tolerating it than like craving it. And then some animals like rabbits and guinea pigs and cats and dogs and horses and etc., etc., they're more domesticated. So they tend to crave attention and pets and being held more often than reptiles. But when it comes to reptiles, the more tolerant of holding and handling, lizard-wise, I would say blue-tongued skinks, bearded dragons, Some crested geckos and some leopard geckos, but not all of them. Some of them are not into being handled at all. Are probably your best. Some tegus are okay with being handled as well, but tegus are really large and they're not for beginners at all. They're actually very, very challenging to keep. Blue tongue skinks, in my opinion, are the easiest lizards to keep, and I'll tell you why. They almost never have health issues. Bearded dragons are great, but they can be unhealthy sometimes. So there's a lot of health issues that they can have and a lot of special needs that they have. Blue tongue skinks, their lighting's really easy to get right. Their heating is really easy to get right. Their diet is super varied, and these guys will eat dead stuff and canned food and fruits and things like that. They're a lot easier for most people to just feed like on a plate rather than getting live food. These guys do not require any live food whatsoever. It's good to have some sort of bugs in their diet, but they can eat dead bugs sometimes. Now, it's better to feed them some live bugs for variety in their diet, but they don't really need it like as much as like a bearded dragon, for example. And certainly a leopard gecko, for example, really needs a lot of live food too to keep happy and healthy. And leopard geckos are actually pretty healthy lizards as well, now that I think about it, but they're just a little more challenging for the average person to feed and take care of than a blue-tongued skink. Now, a blue-tongued skink is also not a very fragile lizard. They're pretty tough, and they get sizable, but not too big. This animal can get another third bigger than this, maybe a little bit bigger than that. Maybe let's just say twice this size. But still, that's not a huge animal by any means. You see how big he is under my chin? Not a very huge lizard. Some lizards get absolutely enormous. And they're not too tiny to where they're super fragile for, like, say, an older child to, like, maybe pick up sometimes. This lizard also is very docile. You can see he doesn't really want to bite or anything like that. If anything, they try to kind of get away from you if they're just not into it that day. But you can usually kind of just scoop them back up and gently lift them out, and then they're like, okay, that's fine. And they'll kind of just go with it, if you know what I mean. So they're one of my favorites to recommend, although each and every exotic type pet requires a lot of research, and any domestic pet for that matter requires a lot of research. So I don't recommend impulse buying any sort of lizard, but these guys, in my opinion, are one of the easier lizards to take care of. So I do like them. I like recommending them for the right family. And these guys live a long time as well. They can live into their like 30s as well. Whereas a bearded dragon doesn't really usually live past 12 to 15, and maybe a little older than that. These guys are a lot hardier and longer lived. And I do like that about them. Well, you guys, I hope you have enjoyed the animal encounter. Like I said, we'll be back each and every Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time for a live stream across social media. And we hope to see you next Wednesday. I don't know what animals are going to come out pretty much day to day this time, because since we don't have any guests right now, we're not really planning anything ahead right now. But you never know what you're going to see or who you're going to meet here at Once in a While. And we hope to see you back next week. If you guys do want to leave a tip or donate to our zoo or sponsor our animals, go to onceinawild.com/donate and you can find all your options. We've got Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Amazon wishlist, and Patreon, as well as booking your own animal encounter. So at onceinawild.com, you can find our contact information. I recommend contacting me to basically schedule your animal encounter, or if you have questions, you can contact me there, and we'd love to help you out with a in-person or virtual animal encounter, whatever type you would like. And you can customize and pick the animals for that. We have something for everybody, not just creepy crawlies, right? That's just one of our options, is the creepy crawlies package. We've got a mix and match package. We've got for 3 animals, 5 animals, and 8 animals right now. And you guys can pick the animal that you want to meet, or maybe we can just have some animal therapy or a petting zoo, depending on what you're looking for. So please let me know. I hope you guys have had a great time meeting Long the snake, Xena the scorpion, and BT the blue-tongued skink lizard. And thanks for all the hearts over on Instagram. That's super sweet. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And I think we'll just see you next time. We are nothing close to ordinary, but we love to be your friend. Hold our hands and let's have fun together, singing as loud as you can. Everybody singing once in a while. Together. Once in a while. I wanna hear you say once in a while. Never fun for me and you. Okay, we'll see everybody next week, same time, same place, across social media at 6:30 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday evening. See you guys next time. Bye.